So today's a very special day, and I welcome you, all of you, con mi corazón, and on behalf of the Mexican Museum. This has been a dream, and sometimes a dream sometimes becomes a nightmare because you have to work sometimes to make that dream come through. And I remember as a little boy, Martin Luther King said it. I had a dream, and his dream came through. And now our dream has come through to make this Mexican Museum a reality after 20 years of struggling. And it's historical in nature because we got the Board of Supervisors vote 11-0, which is historical in nature because a lot of times they don't agree, right? Which is all right. But they all agreed on this one. And so we thank the Board of Supervisors for that 11-0 vote. And we also thank our mayor, Ed Lee, for approving the project to go forward. But that's today, that's right now. And I want to go back 20 years because prior to 20 years, there was a man with a vision, Peter Rodriguez, which you'll hear more about later. And he started the Mexican Museum, for those of you who don't know, in the Mission District of San Francisco. But 20 years ago, it was an elected official who I have had the pleasure of working with on many occasions, on doing many things in our community, who at the time was our supervisor, Jim Gonzalez, who's here today, who was our leader, who at that time made sure that we got this piece of land to build the Mexican Museum. Thank you, Supervisor Gonzalez. And at the time, there was also, and unfortunately he could not be here because the bells are ringing. But then we had Manny Rosales, who was on the Redevelopment Commission, and he was the president of that commission. And so I want to honor him like I honor Supervisor Gonzalez for their work 20 years ago to make sure we got this land. And you know what? You talk about a Mexican museum. Well, let me tell you, there has been Nicaragüenses, Guatemaltecos, Brasileros, Salvadoreños, Nicaragüenses, Cubanos, Brasileros, people from Costa Rica, people from Venezuela, Bolivia, and all of Latin American Latinos who live here, who came together to unite to get this museum built. And that was the most beautiful thing about having all Latinos come together, because we disagree too. But we came together all because we knew what the Mexican Museum would do. I also want to thank our Asian brothers and sisters, our African American brothers and sisters, and our European brothers and sisters, because they also were a part of helping and support in getting this Mexican Museum built. Y los españoles también, gracias. And with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, the president of the Yerba Buena Festival, my good, dear Boricua friend, Arturo Rivera. Please give him a warm hand.
You had to help me that I was Puerto Rican on a Mexican day, didn't you?
My name is Arturo Rivera, and I'm proud to be board chair of the Yerba Buena Arts and Events. We're the nonprofit that actually produces the Yerba Buena Gardens Festival. Who was here for Lila Downs yesterday?
You know, we've become the community hearth for San Francisco. And so we've been waiting to welcome the Mexican Museum for a very, very long time. The Mexican Museum fulfills the original vision of what was the Yerba Buena Arts District as a cultural hub which would spur economic growth and create a sense of community for our residents, the region, and the many business and vacation travelers so important to this city's economy.
The Mexican Museum joins the largest concentration of cultural institutions on the West Coast in one place, including right here, the Jewish Contemporary Museum, and down the block, MOMAD, Yerba Buena Center for the Arts, the Cartoon Museum, and so many other great institutions. Let's have a hand for our wonderful cultural institutions. But you know, I would be remiss if I didn't say a few words in Spanish today, especially in light of this special day. Así que le quiero decir hoy que estoy muy orgulloso en poder representar a Yerba Buena Gardens con ustedes hoy y darle bienvenida al Museo Mexicano de San Francisco. I'm very proud to be able to welcome the Mexican Museum here to the gardens. Hoy cumplimos la meta de crear un centro de cultura para San Francisco y el mundo que representa lo mejor de la creatividad humana. Today we welcome the Mexican community as part of the center as well of the representing the best of what is human creativity. Y hoy día la comunidad mexicana y su arte también está representada en Yerba Buena Gardens. Mexico is today represented here at the gardens as well. Bienvenidos y gracias por sus esfuerzos y por nunca dejar ir su sueño. Thank you for pursuing that dream and never letting it go. Yerba Buena Gardens District se va a enriquecer más con su presencia. We will be further enriched by your presence. Y ustedes son prueba del refrán, sí se puede. Today you are proof of that famous line from Cesar Chavez. Yes, we can. And God, talking about legends
Talking about people
who helped get this piece of land. Please give a big round of applause to our former mayor, Guillermo Café. On the brown side, my brother. Y me da mucho gusto en este momento pedir que nos digan unas palabras el Consulado de México, Carlos Felix. Please welcome the Consulate of Mexico, Carlos Felix.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. It's an honor as Consul General of Mexico to participate in this ceremony dedicated to the structure which is now the Mexican Museum. I would like to recognize the efforts of all the people that have worked tirelessly throughout these years to make this highly important cultural project a reality for San Francisco and the Bay Area. I know that there is a long list of people that have worked a lot, not just elected officials that are here, but also the leaders of our community, and we're very grateful for your work. This project began with the vision of Peter Rodriguez and was continued with the enormous work of various members of the museum's board who have dedicated themselves to make this project a reality. Congratulations to all of you. I would like also to recognize the dedicated support from Mayor Ed Lee and the Board of Supervisors, especially David Campos, John Avalos, and Jane Kim. And thank you for your enthusiasm and commitment in making possible the permanent home of this rich and vast collection of the Mexican Museum. Those relevant projects are possible only with the participation of elected officials and the community work hand in hand for the same goal. San Francisco, you know, is the home of a rich cultural heritage. Covarrubias murals, the presence of Diego Rivera, Frida Kahlo, just to mention a few examples of the rich Mexican influence that in a way belongs to all the San Franciscans who proudly celebrate their cultural diversity as one of the most important assets. The Mexican Museum's new home is the missing piece to beautiful cultural mosaic that is made of various prestigious institutions of art and museums that together represent one of the most important cultural complexities in this country. Today, Mexicans all over the world proudly celebrate the independence of Mexico, which also marks the origins of California. Mexico and California were born together, and Mexico and California started to craft a very important relationship 200 years ago. A few moments ago, also, Mayor Lee, his Office of Protocol, federal authorities, elected officials, and distinguished members of our community met with us for a great and long-standing tradition of friendship with Mexico and the Mexican community, to raise the Mexican flag on the balcony of the mayor's office to join the celebrations of our independence. Therefore, it's of a special significance that on this day we celebrate the new home of the Mexican Museum. As Consul General of Mexico in San Francisco, it has been an honor to join efforts to support this cultural project, which is now about to see the light. We will continue to be fully committed to working with all of you and the strengthening and consolidation of the Mexican Museum. This museum is for all of you. This museum is not just for Mexicans, for Latinos. This is for all the people of San Francisco and the Bay Area that are very proud of their multicultural diversity. Muchas gracias. Viva México. Viva San Francisco.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you the chair of the board of directors of the Mexican Museum, who served now for 4 years on the board of directors and last year got elected to be the chair of the board of directors, el señor Andy Cougar, por favor.
Buenos días. It's my job today to actually introduce and also honor some of the people who are very important players to the development of the museum. So ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Lee, Ambassador Carlos Felix, distinguished members of the Board of Supervisors, distinguished city commissioners, fellow members of the Board of Trustees of the Mexican Museum, past and present museum staff. In addition, I want to thank our countless docents and volunteers, former Supervisor Jim Gonzalez, former Mayor Willie Brown, Guillermo Café, Christina Langa, and District Attorney George Gaston. 20 years ago, in San Francisco, with work of the Mayor's Office and the Board of Supervisors and the Redevelopment Agency, we've dedicated this land so that we'd be able to share this great vision of the Yerba Buena Arts District to be fully realized by us by 2018. Today we're here to celebrate the fact that through a lot of hard work of many, many people over the last 2 decades, we had an approved and fully entitled project to build our dream, El Sueño de Ustedes. Our future home here at Jessie Square, next to sister organizations, the Contemporary Jewish Museum to my right, our neighbors to the south and east, the Museum of the Diaspora, the California Historical Society, the Cartoon Museum, MoMA, Yerba Buena Center for the Arts, and to the west, the Filipino Cultural Center, the GLBT Historical Society, and the San Francisco City Museum. Together, we have persevered, and together this amazing arts district will soon be complete with the addition of the Mexican Museum, El Museo Mexicano. There are so many people to thank today, so I'm apologizing in advance for those that I forget. You know, as they say at weddings, the only ones that remember weddings are those that weren't invited or had a bad time. So I'm apologizing in advance. First and foremost, I want to thank you, the community, la comunidad, which encompasses everyone that is here today, the many donors, supporters, members of the museum throughout the 30-plus years. A very special thanks also to the many artists whose works are in the collection or have been exhibited. To the teachers, educators for bringing their students to the museum and experience their voice institution. It's also a very special thanks today to the Smithsonian Institution for its recognition and unwavering support, and to Anne Rockefeller Roberts for her continued support as well. It is our job as trustees and staff of the Mexican Museum to guard and protect the 14,000 plus objects of art that is part of the collection of the Mexican Museum. It is for you that we have guarded this for over 20 years. Many of you, and I thank you, muchísimas gracias, came to testify to provide physical, mental, and emotional support over 14 approved hearings and over the past 9 months. A huge thanks and gracias to each of you. I want to thank and give a shout out to Handel Architects, to Ten Arquitectos, and to our local architects of record, AD and Fao Long. Our project manager, Greg Johnson, as well, and a special thanks to the present museum location at Fort Mason and Commissioner Richard Hills. Now bear with me, it's like a graduation. I now have to identify certain people to thank them. There have been numerous trustees and directors of the past 20 years that need to be thanked. I will ask them after I mention their names to all stand up at once so we can just give them a recognition. Former board chairs Nora Wagner, Mario Diaz, Victor Marquez. Current trustees Nora Wagner, Emily Pimentel, Jonathan Yerba, Arturo Taboada. Past trustees Tom Peterson, Erlinda Casino, Marta Melendez, Elena Anaya, Ann Cervantes, Jim Morales. Past directors Jonathan Yerba, Maria Acosta Colon, William Moreno, Lorraine Garcia Nakata. Our current director, David de la Torre, and his current staff, Marlena Canon de Mendez, Sofia Trevino, and our consultants, Victoria de Alba, Maria Perez, Christine Osborne, Wendy Niles, Hugo Delgado, and Bernard Arias. These are all pivotal to our project. I'd like you to stand just for a moment so we can thank every one of these people who've been pivotal. Thank you very much. In addition, I have a very special thanks to the 11 members of the Board of Supervisors that unanimously approved the final development of the museum. And they're represented here by Supervisor Kim, Weiner, Cohen, Mar, Avalos, and Campos. Thank you for your unanimous support. Without you, we could not have done it. I also want to thank Mayors Frank Jordan, Gavin Newsom, and naturally, Guillermo Brown, Willie Brown. And a tremendous thanks, really, especially to Mayor Ed Lee for his unwavering support of our project. Thank you, Mayor Lee. I would also be remiss not to thank the successor staff agency and its team led by Director Bohi, Christine Maher, and Director John Raymond of the Planning Department, and to all city commissioners, respective of their commissions, and to proceed with the approvals of our project. Also today, there are several former commissioners as well as regular commissioners. My very good friend, Rosario Anaya, Miguel Bustos, Ramon Romero, who are all wonderful and great supporters for us. We also have to thank, least but with a huge thank you, for their great leadership and support, our development partner, Sean Jeffries, the Jeffries family, Christina Moore, for their truly amazing support to bring about the Mexican Museum. Their generosity and loyalty to making our dream a reality is to be commended at the highest level. In closing, I want to acknowledge Peter Rodriguez, the founder of the Mexican Museum. Thank you for your vision. Muchísimas gracias para tu visión. We have his sister Lupa Kindle and brother Roy Rodriguez with us today representing the family. I want you then to please stay, disfruten la celebración, enjoy the celebration. Si se puede, together we can. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Mayor Ed Lee.
Thank you, Andy, for that introduction. Viva Mexicana! Well, today obviously is a very special day, and it's not only the 203rd anniversary of Mexican Independence Day. It's really appropriate that we take this opportunity to recognize an important institution that will be built here in San Francisco. The entire city, the entire community are excited for this new home for a world-class museum, and we will have this complement the other world-class art institutions that Andy had previously mentioned. All of these institutions, by the way, are not just for our cultural heritage, it's also the great business of the city. I want to remind everybody that the Mexican Museum will join all these arts organizations to have our city reflect a culturally inspired tourism that generates $1.7 billion a year to our economy. 19,000 jobs already in our city because of our cultural institutions. And we'll celebrate this again today, this great museum that adds an impressive part to the rest of the museums. I want to again congratulate the Mexican Museum, its board of trustees, and all of the staff for being an affiliate of the Smithsonian Institution, the nation's largest museum network. And our museum here will feature a permanent collection of over 14,000 objects, reflecting pre-Hispanic, colonial, popular, modern, contemporary Mexican, Mexican-American, Latin America, Latino, and Chicano art. Where else in the world can you find such a beautiful gem of a museum? Today would not have been possible without the assistance of what heretofore has been called the successor agency. And I know why people call it, because we did the right things with our redevelopment agency. We always have, and we always will. And we gave them a new name, the Office of Community Investment and Infrastructure, headed up by Tiffany Bohe. I want to thank them, because that commission continues the important work of investing in our city's infrastructure, and the arts organizations are part of that infrastructure for the city. They always will be. Thank you to the Arts Commission as well. You know, it's said it took us 20 years to get here, and some of us will ask ourselves why it took 20 years. You know, and I think that while we might have been a little disappointed for that such an important institution to take so long to be here, we celebrate all of those years of struggle with people, because it built community, it built a relationship. And I know Supervisor Gonzalez knows that, because all those years we were building community to make sure this could happen in the most inviting way. And therefore, the cultural component to the Mexican Museum will be worth over $20 million in core contributions from Millennium Partners. That's a great thing to see happen. Who else would put up $20 million of core infrastructure for a museum these days? That's the kind of relationship they were building. And they didn't stop there. You thought that was exciting. How about the $5 million of operating endowment to the museum at no cost to the city or the community? That's an ongoing reflection of how valuable this institution is to our city. It's such a great win. I'm excited to see this take shape in 2014 and watch the wonderful work of the architects from 10 Arquitectos, as well as the A&D architectural firm. I will like to see all of you, the incredible supporters, be part of watching this come to being with all of us. And first and foremost, I give my great, great honor to thank the entire community of San Francisco, the entire Board of Supervisors. Every one of them voted in favor of this. And I am proud, very proud to say, that amongst all those mayors that continued this 20-year effort to do so, I am proud to say that one of the bridges of this was former Mayor Willie Brown. Yes. Of course, a special thanks again to Millennium Partners, to Supervisor Jane Kim, in whose district that we preside, but all of the supervisors, each and every one of them. I'm proud to have worked with them when we unite, and there's more reasons to unite this city, especially when it comes to celebrating our cultures. Everybody's united on that. Thank you also to the Consul General of Colombia for being here today, Consul General Castillo, as well as Consul General of Singapore is here today as well, attending this celebration. The way we have done this, the way we bring people together, and personally on a note, there's a reason why I taught both of my children to learn Spanish as well as Mandarin. We are in the greatest city in the world. We celebrate our diversity. It is part of our business and culture and celebration. Viva Mexicana! Happy Independence Day! Thank you everybody for being here.
Gracias, Alcalde Eduardo Lee. You know, I'm old school. I was born and raised in the Mission, and I'm a homeboy. You know, and I'll always be a homeboy. You know, and I'm proud of that. You know, at some point, somebody told me, you know, I should do this, I should do that, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, you can't change me. But you know what? One of the things that we learned growing up here, and I know our mayor and a lot of you will understand this because we were organizers, you know? We were organizers in different neighborhoods, and we always had respect for other neighborhoods, you know? And so when we were going to do this here on this part of the earth, we reached out to our brothers and sisters here in this district. And I want to ask you to get off your phone because I want to recognize my brother Rudy, you know, from United Players, because he was one of the first brothers that I went to out of respect for this neighborhood and said, we want to do this, you know, and I asked for permission because that's what you do. That's old school. You ask for permission. You just don't come in somebody's neighborhood and do something without asking for permission. And so I want to thank him and all of you from the South of Market community who gave your blessing and said, yes, please have this museum built here. And so with that said, I want to introduce our next speaker, but tell you a little bit about her. Because when it comes down to working, you know what? There's some people that work un poquito, and there's some people will work unconditionally, untirelessly. And the supervisor for this district, Jane Kim, worked tremendously, hours and hours and weeks and months, weekends, gave of her time to make this happen, being a representative of this district. And you know, her aide also worked on weekends. And I want to thank your aide also, April. Where's April at? April. Thank you very much, April, for all the work that you did. Because, you know, a lot of times, you know, it's like you get the star supervisor or the mayor or whatever, but there's people behind the scene. And you know what? We know, and we want to thank you and honor you today for all the work that you did. And with that, please welcome the supervisor of this barrio, Supervisor Jim Kim.
Well, now I know who I'm going to ask to be my MC at my re-elect kickoff. I do just want to recognize April Veneracion because actually she was on maternity leave. She just had a baby, so she's part of the growing number of families here in the Bay Area. And the first thing that she had to come back to when she came back off of maternity was this project. And she immediately dove right in and was really working many, many hours on this. I just want to thank everyone for being here today. I want to recognize our General Counsel, Felix. Thank you for recognizing me with our 2 Latino supervisors. I feel like an honorary Latino today. But I was here yesterday at the garden, and I just want to congratulate the Yerba Buena Garden Festival for throwing such a great show. How many people were here yesterday for Lila Downs? Over 30 years ago, there was a small group of people that believed in this neighborhood, believed that they could reshape it from being one of our oldest neighborhoods, a neighborhood that was ignored, to being one of the most dynamic parts of San Francisco. And I wasn't there, but I know they were told that they were crazy. And despite that, they moved on, both in the city family under the redevelopment agency, but also partners here throughout the neighborhood, whether it was the SF MoMA, to many others that are here today, to create this neighborhood that we are in. And that happens through a lot of hard work. There are a lot of organized individuals and neighborhood associations that make this neighborhood as beautiful and as dynamic as it is today. And I will recognize them later. But I'm really pleased to be here to celebrate Mexican Independence Day and the Mexican Museum's new home in Yerba Buena. The Mexican Museum will be joining our partners that invested in this neighborhood early, the SF MoMA, the Contemporary Jewish Museum, Yerba Buena Center for the Arts, the Museum of African Diaspora, and the San Francisco Filipino Cultural Center. It's really exciting to see how this neighborhood has formed over the last 30 years. And this is the jewel of the district that serves our residents and our visitors alike, as in our event yesterday, which was such a wonderful way to also celebrate families. It was also our family block party day, and we had many sponsors that ensured that all of our museums in this neighborhood was free yesterday for all the folks that came out. But we had talked about how there are residents that already live here in this neighborhood, families, seniors. A lot of seniors live in this neighborhood. A lot of folks that came into this project and worked with our office to explore this opportunity, because development is an opportunity for our neighborhood. What can we do? What are the holes in the neighborhood? What can we do to improve this neighborhood? And we heard over and over again that this neighborhood has to be a safer place for people to walk. And we heard that from Rick Smith, who's an active member here and lives just down the block. What can we do to improve 3rd Street? And we also heard from the residents of the Four Seasons, like Joe Fang, who is also here, about what we can do to improve Stevenson. It is not safe for people to walk here. And for those of you that come here at 6 o'clock at night, you feel it. It's very intimidating to be a pedestrian here. And so we talked to Sean, we talked to Millennium, what can they do to support pedestrian safety? And Sean said, I'm there. I can invest the money on crosswalks. I can invest money on traffic enforcement through the CBD to make sure that we're actually ticketing those automobiles that aren't respecting our pedestrians here in the neighborhood. He committed to those things. And then we were already recognized, but I just want to recognize United Players here again, and Rudy Corpus and Misha Olivas. People talk about diminishing and vanishing families in San Francisco, but that doesn't mean that families don't exist here. There are young people that still live here in the South Market all around us, and this is the organization that serves them. And so we talked to them and we said, what could we do to improve the neighborhood? And they said, open space. We don't have enough open space in this district. In fact, District 6 has the least open space and the smallest parks in the city. And so we talked to the Millennium about that as well. And yes, we have the beautiful Yerba Buena Gardens, but we also have to maintain it. And the Millennium was there to support operating fees and new open space dollars for this neighborhood, understanding that that was important for their new residents and their existing residents alike. So I do want to recognize our residents. This is a changing neighborhood, and they are so patient as this neighborhood continues to evolve, but they remain committed and investment to the present and the future, and they continue to work so hard, volunteering their hours. They're not paid like I am. They volunteer their hours. And at Mary McHugh here with MGM, we have Kathy Maupin. I see her walking around with Yerba Buena CBD. We have so many folks. Of course, our closest, most famous resident, Willie Brown, who had a small bit to do with this project as well. But I think it's important to recognize the residents that are here that debated this project, many who supported this project, but also helped ensure that this project was something that was going to be a benefit both to the South of Market and, of course, our Latino Mexican-American community. Thank you so much, and congratulations to everyone involved.
Muchas gracias. And next up, please give a big round of applause for a brother who's from Guatemala, who's a supervisor. Just like a lot of people don't know, Supervisor Jim Gonzalez is also from Guatemala. So we have two supervisors from Chapines, right? That made it possible. Supervisor David Campos.
Gracias, Roberto. I'll try to be very brief. I do want to thank all of you for coming out on this beautiful day, and it's really fitting that that this is happening on Mexican Independence Day. Yesterday we celebrated Central American Independence Day, so it's the right time. I want to acknowledge the elected family that's here. Of course, our mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and your staff for doing all the work that they've done for so many years. I see our district attorney, a Latino district attorney, George Gascon. Of course, our supervisor, Jane Kim, whose district is where this amazing institution is going to be located. I also want to give a special acknowledgement to the Consul General of Mexico, Ambassador Carlos Felix. Carlos, by the way, is the most senior member of the consulate corps, and unfortunately, we're going to be losing him. He's going to be leaving San Francisco. But Carlos, thank you for all your contributions to not only the Mexican, the Latino, but the entire San Francisco community. You know, it really has been a long time coming, and I think a number of people have been mentioned. Of course, the members of the board of directors. Of course, you know, I see members, former members of the elected family, Supervisor Jim Gonzalez, who reminded me that, you know, it takes two Guatemalans to make a Mexican museum happen. Of course, I saw former Supervisor Cristina Olagi. I see former members of the redevelopment agency, Miguel Bustos, Rosario Anaya, of course, the successor agency. The reason why I think this is such a special moment is because in many respects, it goes to the heart of what makes San Francisco special. I think that a key value and principle that we live by as San Franciscans is the idea that we're all in it together. And that none of us can really say to have made it. None of us can really say that we are where we need to be unless our brothers and sisters to have made it. And that's why I think here it's so important that we're celebrating the grand, you know, opening and the grand, you know, beginning of this institution. Because as much as we want to celebrate culture and history here in Yerba Buena Jardines, as much as we want to do that, we cannot fully celebrate and honor that culture, that history, that art, unless everyone is represented. And you cannot say that you're honoring the history, the culture, the tradition of San Francisco without that Mexican, without that Latino presence. And that's why we're here today. And I think it is fitting to say a few words in Spanish. Hace mucho tiempo, el idioma español era el idioma hablado en esta parte de California, en esta parte del hemisferio. Y creo que es muy apropiado que en este día de independencia mexicana, estamos hablando de la apertura del Museo Mexicano. Porque no es solamente un museo que le pertenece a las personas de descendencia mexicana, es un museo que le pertenece a todas las personas que viven en esta ciudad y condado de San Francisco. Este es un museo latino, es un museo que pertenece al corazón de cada residente de esta ciudad. I know that there will be generations that will look back at why it took so long to get here. 20 years is a long time. But I also know that many kids will benefit from this amazing institution. The exposure to those 14,000 objects of art, the exposure to the history of the Latino community, of the Mexican American community, and what it has meant for San Francisco and the rest of California. And I am so proud and so grateful that so many members of other communities, the Asian American community, the African American community, the Jewish community, the LGBT community, that they have made it possible for us to be here. Lastly, I want to mention a very special person because I see him sitting in the audience. I want to thank Victor Marquez, who has really pushed this forward for many, many years. You know, there is something about, you see some of the people that have been involved. There's something about these gay Latinos that have been a very important part of this project. So, que viva México, que viva el Museo Mexicano, que viva San Francisco. Gracias.
And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you, and big round of applause for my Asian brother, Supervisor Eric Marr.
Thank you, everyone. We're almost done here. John Avalos was supposed to be here today, and I know that from his history and Chicano roots, growing up in LA to becoming a supervisor here, that he would be beaming with pride like many of us are. I think this is a glorious day of Mexican independence, but it's also a glorious day of empowerment and organizing, as Roberto said, for our Latino and Chicano communities in San Francisco and throughout the country. I am Eric Marr from District 1 in San Francisco, the place where the De Young and the Legion of Honor and the former place for the Asian Art Museum. But I'm proud to be here, and it's such a privilege as well to be standing here for an amazing place that will attract people from all around the world, where we will have a world-class Mexican museum in San Francisco. So we're going to be unveiling a banner here in a moment, and I'll just read what Victor Marquez and others have presented for me. On this special occasion, as we celebrate Mexican Independence Day, it gives me a great honor to congratulate the great accomplishments of the Mexican Museum. We are proud of the Mexican Museum's collection of 14,000 objects of art, ranging from pre-Columbian to contemporary Mexican and Latin American and Chicano art that comprises the Mexican Museum. I thank all of the trustees and staff of the museum for preserving and cultivating this great collection, which will soon be exhibited here in Yerba Buena Gardens. At this time, I'd like to ask if my colleagues, and I know that Scott Wiener has left already, but my colleagues from the Board of Supervisors to join me up front in presenting this proclamation to Andy Kluger and Victor Marquez, representing the Mexican Museum. And I would just read two of the whereases and the be it resolved from the proclamation. Whereas the Mexican Museum is a realization of a vision to exhibit the aesthetic expression of the Mexican, Chicano, and Mexican American people. And whereas Mayor Edwin M. Lee and the members of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors honored Mexican Independence Day Monday, September 16, 2013 by celebrating the new home of the Mexican Museum at a community gathering at Jessie Square Plaza in the Yerba Buena Gardens Arts District in downtown San Francisco. Be it resolved that today is hereby declared Mexican Museum Day in San Francisco. So let me give this also to Victor Marquez. And I just wanted to also say at this point, we also have Mayor Ed Lee to join us and my colleagues in unveiling and hanging this banner on the wall behind us.
The future home of the Mexican Museum, Mi Casa, Tu Casa. I want to take a moment to thank all the volunteers and all the people that came to all the hearings. There was 264 people altogether that attended numerous hearings. So let's please give a big round of applause to the Friends of the Mexican Museum. Committee members, please stand up, put your hands up, and thank you very much for coming to all the hearings throughout all those months. I want to also thank former Commissioner of the Redevelopment, Commissioner Singh. Por favor, mi amigo, gracias for being with us. I also want to thank the Latino Democratic Club for their support, Latinos a Morir, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, La Raza Lawyers Association, and the Latino Leadership Comité. At this time, before we conclude, I just want to have a few people come up. Bing, 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 bing. I want to thank a group. It was a team of people who would meet every Thursday for donuts and cafe. And they strategically worked together. So it's Karen Johnson. Thank you very much. Marsha, where's Marsha at? Salamon. Marsha, I can't see you. Oh, there she is. Thank you, Marsha. And of course, Victor Marquez and our director of the Mexican Museum, el Señor David de la Torre. And with that, please join us for some comida. We thank, agua. Yeah, agua. So I have some agua by the Public Utilities Commission. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And Linda? Helen Saw.